Okay, so I'm never really satisfied with my level of description when I make things, so I'll probably edit and add to this. Because here's the thing, like the way you're thinking um, is always perceptually rich, but like when you say it, it's a very simple thing. So an idea can be like this cluster or kind of a network of ideas, but you can only explain them linearly, and then you find yourself in trouble. You're like, oh, I thought I had this great idea, and then like I can't get it out properly, you know. So what the idea means is extremely individual, you know. Um, and they dovetail into one another. You know, there's lots of digressions that could be made, um, and um, many different aspects of education can be impacted by looking at just one basic idea. Um, and you could flow every which way talking about stuff. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today um, was this idea of putting the work in. What does it mean when we say to work on something? Um, and I just pulled out three ideas here. It's doing the thing you want to be good at, okay? Which that has a lot of implications if you think about it. You have to actually do it every day, okay? And you have to know what you're doing and what it means to be good at it. Okay, so there's actually a lot there that you could piece out. And let me go ahead and point out like the calendar method, okay? You get your calendar out, you got your 4 weeks, okay? And then on every day that you do the thing, you put an X. And maybe you say 30 minutes each day. You put an X. Great. And then do it again. And do it again. And do it again. And you never stop. You have to prove to yourself that you actually are doing the thing every day. The other thing I like is, like Tim Ferriss says, what does it mean if something was actually number one? Like if health was actually number one, you would go to people and you would say, yeah, sorry, I can't go to the meeting because I need to get some sleep. And they would get so mad at you, and they would think you're ridiculous because you're telling them, they would think you're ridiculous because it's possible, it's humanly possible for you to go to the meeting. But because you know what number one truly means, you're putting your health first, 100% first. And it's like, that's kind of a litmus test, right? Because we tend to say certain things are number one in our lives, but like, it's not actually, we always set it aside or make little excuses. Like, oh, I can't run today because it's raining. Oh, I can't write because the internet's not working. Or, oh, oh shoot, I gotta go, there's a ton of them. And sometimes the excuse that we insert to stop ourselves from working is like the dumbest excuse. Has nothing, it's not even a barrier, but we just say it and we accept it as a barrier, and then we don't keep working. Okay, what was I just thinking of? I won't be able to recall it. Okay, next up. Doing the core aspect of the activity. I'll get into that later, like what I think core activity is. And this is what I was just trying to remember. What is work really? Is it like, are we really saying when we work hard that we should be miserable? Or that like, because look, I don't think it's a good idea to work super, super, super hard or to slave away doing pointless things. You know, um, because being miserable doesn't give you progress. It really doesn't. So I'm going to talk about having a certain quality of attention, to just make gentle progression and just kind of enjoy what you're doing. Because to me, hard work means just doing the thing. You just do it. It's a yes or no thing. Like, did you do it for an hour? And that's not hard. It's, you have to find a way to make the work you want to accomplish be as effective and productive and evidentiary as possible. Like, can you see the progress? Like, can you see the actual output or the thing that was made? That's really important. All right, let's go through these one by one. Okay, doing the thing you want to be good at. You either put the time in or you don't. And then you either do the activity, memorize particular knowledges for the activity, or you don't. And now I want to talk about this memorizing thing, because there's a big thread in education that says you can just look stuff up on the internet and you know, you're a problem solving person and a general thinking type. And it's like, yeah, thinking's good, but if you don't know anything, that means all information is novel. And it's like, this is tricky, because when you look stuff up on the internet, eventually you will get to know certain terms and you will familiarize yourself. Like, you'll get there eventually, you know. But I think it's important to emphasize that, like, when you learn factual knowledge and actually force yourself to do things that are kind of hard to do or hard to memorize, once you learn them, you get speed with those basics. Okay? And once you have those, they get put in the automatic background, and then you can do more advanced processes. And it's like, you can never ever go to more advanced processes unless you memorize stuff. So it's like, okay, are you going to memorize things methodically, or are you going to memorize them haphazardly on the internet? I'm not sure which is more efficient, because if you're methodical, you might learn things that are unnecessary. You know, like learning counterpoint in music. It's good to learn, but I don't use it or think about it every day. But it's like, it gives you side skills. It gives you facility, if that makes sense. It teaches you something. Like, being able to do that gives you certain hidden side skills besides being able to do counterpoint. So it's tricky, because like, the methodical way of going through, you might do a lot of extra stuff. You might do things like with music theory that you don't use every single day, but it will be thorough. It will be very thorough. Now, how about the haphazard way online? You might then, I feel like you might waste a lot of time, because you'll read things and you won't know what a lot of the words mean. But it's like, if you're smart about it, you might be able to learn the essentials of something very quickly. But only if you're diligent enough to look up kind of those background terms and make sure you really turn it into a bit of a process. So there's a lot to chew on there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one's really right there, but I'm going to go on with my train of thought here. So, I think you should memorize certain things, and then you can't just look up everything on the internet, because you have to memorize stuff for your brain to go faster. And that's what's going to allow you to learn higher knowledges. Okay? Okay, let's go on here. Okay, so with the core aspect thing, this is the raw skill of the behavior, and this is like, this is a definite thing. You know, like, can you play the scale or not, kind of thing. Doing the core activity is not messing around with your gear or doing things you already know. Okay? It means being good at like really basic things. It means you actually know the ins and outs, like the theory of stuff, and you haven't taken shortcuts. Although, let's be careful with that word shortcuts, because like there are ways to learn where you learn like because of how you're paying attention, you learn a month's worth of stuff in a week, you know. So it's like, let's be careful with that word shortcuts, because there are lots of bad ways of learning that take longer than they should. The core aspect has nothing to do with physical stuff, okay? Like you don't make excuses for yourself. You say, if I want to learn this, I'll rehearse it in my head. You make no excuse for yourself. This is like the main example here. I've noticed like instead of doing the hard thing that we need to do to be good at our task, we might do something else that's more fun or is a distraction. So a musician, like a person who wants to like actually play music, goes and messes around with synthesizers. Well, they're not doing their core activity. They're distracting themselves. But if a person does want to be a sound designer, then being a sound designer is its own core activity, right? So it's important to define what it is you're going for and make sure you're addressing that discreetly and not distracting yourself with side activities. Like know exactly what you're up to and make sure you're working towards that. Although, let me put in a caveat. The way we develop is pretty haphazard, okay? Like we can plan to be a certain way and all that and do our goal setting and be very concrete and stuff. But it's like ultimately the knowledge that becomes a part of us and like the way we end up being, it's not really our choice. It just kind of happens, right? It's like you do a bunch of stuff and then on a subterranean level, like unconsciously, your true self or something is like your sort of true self is being formulated, and you don't have control over that. And it's like, and if you pull in the spiritual piece here, it's like, what do we mean by you? Okay, there's no you in this picture. It's just you're not going to develop yourself. Like how are you going to say I'm going to become this and then you become it? Like that's not how this works. But we do the goal setting and the planning and the meticulous thought because it seems to produce better results than zero planning, okay? But in both cases, zero planning and in meticulous thought, we become something other than we could have supposed at the beginning, okay? I hope that makes sense. Okay, last thing. When we're talking about work, like work doesn't have to be hard work. Like you don't have to be dying. You just have to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And you have to do it with a certain quality of attention. So like, are you doing the thing you have to learn to get better at your skill? And you just need to gently look at that. And you need to work at something that's right at your level. And this, that's the flow thing, right? That's the flow thing. If you're freaking out because you're mad because you can't play a piece because it's too hard, you've taken on too much. Why can't you accept that? Just accept it and look at one measure and learn everything you can from one measure of music. Why can't you do that? Why not? Stop freaking out. Stop trying hard. Just be gently productive and gently look. That's important. And that right there, are you doing small enough chunks? Right? That's the idea. Okay, so at the bottom of this video, I'll put in some text here on core activity and basic activity, which is like an earlier thing I was writing when I was thinking about this stuff. So, yeah, pretty scattered video. Hit a couple good inquiries in there. The trouble I have is as I'm making the video, 5 new ideas pop up, and also like things that I believe are questioned while I'm saying them. So, so like when I say something that I supposedly believe, I don't even know if I believe it because I'm already interrogating it and it's been like I've just annihilated it. Um, so that's tricky. But okay, that was today's video.